How to install a back-to-wall toilet onto a WC unit. In this video, we're going to show you how to install a back-to-wall toilet onto furniture with a concealed cistern. You'll need a drill with a hole cutter, slightly larger than the size of the toilet's inlet pipe, a driver and drill bit, an adjustable spanner, a pencil, silicone sealant and gun, a saw, an adjustable wrench, spirit levels, a cloth, a tube of silicone sealant, a screwdriver and a tape measure. Start by checking that the flush inlet on the pan will fully fit into the opening of the fascia of the unit. If not, you will need to extend the opening. Do this by measuring from the floor to the centre of the flush inlet on the pan. Mark the centre point on the facial panel. Use an appropriate size hole cutter to increase the size of the opening. You can now put the unit in place and fix it to the wall. Put the wall bracket in place on the back of the cistern. Now measure from the middle of the holes on the bracket to the top of the cistern. Next, measure the back of the unit and mark the centre point. Continue this point downward into the back of the unit using a spirit level. Mark the measurement you took for the fixing points on the back of the cistern on the line and extend across using a spirit level. Now mark the centre of the fixing bracket. Hold in place on the centre line of the unit and mark the holes. Screw the bracket in place. Check its level and tighten. Connect the flexi hose for the water supply to the inlet pipe, tightening with a wrench. Insert the cistern to the unit, checking it sits just below the top of the unit when on the bracket. Lift the cistern out again to attach to the water supply. Now tighten it up using an adjustable spanner before slotting the cistern back into place on the bracket. Insert the flush button through the hole in the unit and screw in place. Remove the lid of the cistern and take out the internal flush button mechanism, threading the yellow cable through the slot in the side of the cistern and pushing it into the back of the external button. It's important there are no kinks or tensions on this yellow cable, as this can affect the flush function. Replace the lid on the cistern. Now cut your inlet pipe to the right size to reach from the cistern to the hole for the pan inlet. Place the rubber comb washer, plastic washer and fixing nut onto the pipe and screw it tightly by hand onto the bottom of the cistern flush valve. Measure and cut the flush pipe to fit into the inlet on the WC. Make sure you check the length of the waste pipe is also correct. Insert the connector into the waste pipe and dry fit the pan to ensure both waste pipe and inlet are in the correct position and at the correct length. To fit the toilet seat, thread the nut and retainer on the two fixing bolts through the hinge plate. Now thread the nut and retainer through the holes in the pan and shake slightly so the retainer nut drops into a horizontal position. You can now tighten with a screwdriver. Fit the toilet seat and adjust it to align centrally over the pan. Now remove the seat and fully tighten the screws before putting the stainless steel cover onto the hinge plate. Finally, slot the seat onto the hinge posts. Mark on the floor where the edge of the pan sits on both sides and mark the location of the fixing bolt holes. Now disconnect the pan from the connector and move it back out of the way. To measure the thickness of the wall of the pan where the bolt holes are, measure in from the marks you made from the outside edge of the pan on both sides. Place the fixing bracket on the floor, slotted side down, where the inside of the pan will be. Mark the hole in the bracket on the floor. Now, using an appropriate drill bit for the surface, drill the holes into the floor for the brackets and screw down the floor brackets on both sides. Insert the connector into the waste pipe. You can use lubricant or washing up liquid to help ease the connector into place. Do the same on both the inside and outside of the rubber washer before placing it into the inlet pipe. Now put the WC back into position. Make sure the flush pipe and waste connector has engaged with the pan to ensure there are no leaks. Place the plastic washer onto the fixing bolt and screw it into the bracket. Now place the chrome cap over the screw head to finish. Wipe down the join between the pan and the unit to remove any dust or dirt. Then run a line of silicone sealant along the join. Smooth the sealant with a wet finger. Do the same along the join between the pan and the floor. Leave to dry for 24 hours. Put the top cover on the unit. Job done. Job done.